Hi, I'm Christine Benz from Morningstar.com. A recent Fidelity study shows that many couples have a communications gap when it comes to their finances. Joining me to discuss this research is Kristen Robinson from Fidelity Investments. Kristen, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So Fidelity periodically puts out these studies where you interview couples about their money habits, their communication around money. And the latest study, I thought, had some pretty stark takeaways in terms of couples' communications on their finances. One is that couples don't even know what the other partner makes.
That's right, Christine. So we do these studies every 2 years, and we study over 1,000 couples. And when we ask the question, what does your partner make and bring home? We found that 40% of these couples said that they do not know. And in fact, they did not know by about $25,000. So this is a range.
So you weren't saying you have to get it on the button, just in the right ballpark, and people weren't close.
That's exactly right. It was a range. And what was really ironic about that was before that question, we asked if they were aligned, these couples were aligned with regard to their finances. And the answer was over 70% said, yes, we are aligned. We know we're on target. We're on the same place. Yet only 40% knew how much their other spouse made.
So you have some ideas about why this might be so. One is kind of the fact that a lot of workers are doing more contract work, you think, is potentially an issue, as well as maybe the fact that some pay is variable, people receive bonuses and stuff like that.
That's right. And then lastly, the stock market obviously fluctuates. And for those retirees that are withdrawing from their 401k accounts, their balances obviously change.
Okay. So another area where it shows that where you found that couples really aren't intersecting is in terms of their investment assets, they're not necessarily clear on how much they have.
Yes, that's absolutely true. And so not only do they not know how much they make, they also are challenged with how many assets they have. And about 50% of the respondents were unclear about that.
Okay, so there's a planning gap as well, as in addition to the knowledge gap. Your research shows that many couples are not sitting down with each other and talking through some important planning issues specifically related to retirement planning and what will retirement look like and how will we get there. Let's talk about that.
Absolutely, and that was another surprise, that we found that nearly 50% of these couples were not on the same page with what their retirement looked like. And then we asked the question, are you on the same page with regard to your finances? Do you know if your money will support you for the remainder of your life? And about 50% were not on the same page with how much they really needed to save or have in place for their retirement. So there's a disconnect.
When you say they are not on the same page about what retirement will look like, do you mean that they haven't talked through where they will live, whether one person will work part-time, those sorts of things?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's something that we think that couples need to very early on get on the same page. So for example, when they retire, do they want to travel the world, or do they want to buy 2 homes, or do they want to buy 1? And those are the decisions that really need to be talked about so that when they look at the money that they have for retirement, they can be really understand how far their money will go.
Okay. Another thing that jumped out at me in the study is that even relative to a couple of years ago, you found that couples are worrying more about money. And it's kind of counterintuitive. The economy's been good. The market has certainly been quite good. Yep. So why do you think that's happening?
Well, we found that the couples that are not worrying about it are the couples that have planned. So the couples that have a retirement plan in place, and they've really spent time to map out their plan. They're confident that their money will last, and they're confident that their plan is the right one. So it's those individuals that do not have a plan where I believe that as more and more baby boomers are getting older, some of them are coming into retirement not prepared. And these are the ones who are really finding themselves in a very uncomfortable spot and not confident about what their plan is and what their future is.
You, in the study, had some kind of conversation starters, some key issues that couples, if they want to try to bridge the planning gap, they need to bridge the communication gap. So you had some key topics that couples should try to talk about to make sure that they're at least on the same page as much as they can be. Let's talk about some of those key things. Emergency funding is one.
Yes, emergency funding is very important. Also really understanding what your medium-term goals are. So what do you want to do in the next 3 to 5 years?
Okay.
And put a plan together for that. Also, really need to make sure that you're in sync with what your plan is. So clearly with this study, we found that couples thought they were in sync, but really when it came down to it, there was some disconnects in their financial foundation. And so having those discussions, making sure that you have a clear understanding of what those priorities are, and then mapping out a plan to those is something that's really important. And also starting early. For these young millennials, it's so incredibly important for them to make decisions together and also start early. And that came right from our couples.
So you did ask older couples, more seasoned couples, I should say, to give their advice, and that was one of the key pieces of advice. They said, get started on that retirement funding as early as you possibly can.
Absolutely. And make decisions together, because the decisions that you make together will be the decisions that you continue to check up on an ongoing basis, and you might need to change them as your life changes, but at least they'll keep you on the same page.
And one simple technique that I know you're a believer in is writing down your financial goals, asking your spouse to do the same, and then see where you have matches and where maybe you have mismatches. And those are things you need to talk about.
Very, very effective. And we also have a couples quiz that enables both spouses to have the quiz, and it identifies what those gaps are.
Okay. Obviously, couples have a lot of work to do. Kristen, thank you so much for sharing this research with us.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching. I'm Christine Benz for Morningstar.com.